What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show for the 2022-2023 NBA season. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, joined by Mike Gallagher in this space during the course of the season, 2 o'clock Eastern time, every Monday through Friday. We will be breaking down the news and information you need to know about the injury report to help you set your DFS lineups, to look at potential prop betting, and to get you acquainted with the NBA slate that night. Tonight, just 2 games on the slate. Relatively light start to the NBA season, 7:30 and 10 o'clock Eastern. Mike Gallagher, how are you on this fine Tuesday?
Doing great, man. NBA's back. Press conferences are running my life, going through all those. Won almost all my fantasy football matchups last night, which was great. But yeah, man, ready to go. Ready for the grind. No more roses.
It is a grind. The roses will wait until June. But we will enjoy, except for some slight alterations with the All-Star break and whatnot. But we will enjoy the NBA while we have it. Let's start with the injury side of things tonight. Let's start with this Boston and Philadelphia game. On the injury report, really nothing. We've got Danilo Gallinari and Robert Williams who are out for Boston. We expect with Robert Williams out, Derek White to slide into the starting lineup. But really not a lot of news here. Other than Philadelphia, no injury report. Mm-hmm. So what's going on, Philadelphia? Are you going to pull a surprise on us? Everybody knows my disdain for Doc Rivers and the 76ers, but I think we're all set to go. Any notes you have here regarding injuries regarding these two teams?
Only thing I want to see is what happens with Luke Kornet. He was available for the last preseason game. Myself and a few of the beats were expecting him to be in the rotation, and they're going to need the size. So that's something where I'm seeing if he cuts into Sam Hauser, who we saw get a really big chunk. We saw Grant Williams play the center 2 slot with the way the rotation shook out in the dress rehearsal game last week. So Sam Mazzulla had mentioned that they are going to kind of lean into their speed more and play smaller lineups, obviously not having Time Lord a big reason for that. So, yeah, we know those core 7 guys, starting 5, Malcolm Brogdon, Grant Williams, are going to be really reliable. And then I think it's just going to be pieced together with the Hausers, Pritchards, maybe Blake Griffin, probably not, maybe Luke Kornet and those guys. But we know those core 7 guys are going to play a lot. And I should mention Malcolm Brogdon tweaked his leg in that last game I mentioned, missed the final 2 minutes of this first half. He was looking to like 16-minute half as a bench guy in a dress rehearsal. So could be a really, really big second unit role for Malcolm Brogdon, almost 12 assists per 36 in the preseason as well.
Yeah, we could see a pretty condensed rotation from the Boston side of things, and how they decide to play could ultimately impact, different iterations of how Philadelphia plays as well in terms of the reserves. That stuff we'll all talk on the premium show, which is behind the paywall at 5 o'clock Eastern. I know last year we moved the show around to accommodate 2 hours before lock time. This year, we're just going to stick to 5 o'clock Eastern every single day. So if you are a paid subscriber, you will have a consistent schedule that you can rely on us to be there 5 o'clock Eastern every day. We'll also give us a little bit more time after the show on those 7:30 locks to adjust projections if news comes in, hunt props, and all those different things as well. But 5 o'clock Eastern to 6 o'clock, it'll be Mike and myself behind the paywall once again. If you are not subscribed to us, I don't know what you're doing out there. There's plenty of great content. Mike's matchups column, which is usually Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, is up already today for his Monday edition, which is Tuesday. You will have the big 12, 14 game slate. How many games are there tomorrow? It's an insane amount.
I don't know. It's a lot. I think it's 13, but so it's bad. It's bad, man. It's bad. I'm like 75% through the pressers, and I woke up at like 6:30 today. Like, all right, man, I gotta. I haven't even eaten since like I think 3 o'clock yesterday. So I've been. It's that time, yeah. But once we get through this today, it'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, so there will be a little bit more continuity on that. But Mike's matchups column, we also have a GPP leverage column that is being written by Rich Pateka. He has already posted this week's. That's up on the site as well. So we're trying to, bring all the content you need, all the projections. We've added members to the team. We've had 3 new members to the projections team this year. So we have increased depth and resources on the projections team, covering more periods, having dedicated people dedicated to the prop side of things as well. We've got 2 packages, DFS and props. The props is just weekly, auto renews weekly. You can cancel at any time. Please read the FAQ if you're interested in getting the props package, because props is, it's an expensive package and it's really meant for people who are really ready to grind really hard. So We were plus 200 units last year. We're really proud of the work we've done. The market continues to get more challenging and more difficult. We are continuing to load up on resources for it. But please make sure you read that FAQ because it gives you all the details on what you would need to know to use the props package successfully. All right, let's get into that second game where there's more news and notes to kind of cover the Lakers and the defending champion Golden State Warriors. On the Golden State Warriors side of things, we had this note from Steve Kerr that Underdog tweeted, the great folks over at Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you're following them on the NBA account for all your news and information needs, that the starters are not necessarily ready to be playing minutes into the 30s, and they were going to be held back. You listen to the presser, you understand the context behind that quote. Tell the people what your thoughts on it are.
Yeah, I think he just threw 30 out there as like kind of an arbitrary number, kind of nice round number. I read it as like we're not playing him 35, 36 minutes. I didn't read it as he has a 30 cap, which obviously changes things. And specifically, he mentioned the top 5 or 6 guys. So that includes Jordan Poole plus the starters, obviously Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, and Kevon Looney. And the one player specifically was kind of singled out later in the presser, about 3-4 minutes. He talked about Klay Thompson, who's dealing with calf soreness. He's missed some time with that. We saw the shorter rotations. He was very limited in the preseason. Obviously, the Achilles also could be lingering. We know the calf injuries and Achilles things can be related. I see you, Kevin Durant. So way bigger concerns on Klay Thompson. Still expect some of those other guys to touch 30, just not like 37. Like there's no chance we're going to see 37, 36. It's just, I think he's going in there with like a little bit of a guideline to, we'll probably see like, 15, 16 in the first half and then maybe 16, 17 in the second half if it's close. For the Steph Pools, I would say Draymond is probably closer to Clay given the circumstances. And then Wiggins is probably in the Curry and Poole group.
Okay, so you still think they have the upside to get into the mid 30s in minutes, despite the quote, with the exception of Clay, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think like 33 would be the high end. I think I think he's shooting for like 31, 32.
That would be my guess.
If you could dial him back to 30, great. If not, because I mean, they talked. So the last time they went overseas, I think when they went to China, I remember China, Clay, all that stuff. The Warriors were complaining about the travel schedule messing them up for like months. So I think that is going into this as well. So definitely, not full workload, but just it's opening night. They're playing the Lakers. Like they're going to want to win this game. So and it's also another way too, is like they want to lean into their depth. Kuminga's coming off a really good game in the preseason. Moses Moody's really valuable. They got Dante DiVincenzo. This team's just so deep. Wiseman wants to get minutes. They've got a really good 11 guys they could play. No Iguodala, should mention that as well.
Yeah. And to follow up there, I think that's really the note on Golden State this year, which it's going to be more difficult to play Golden State guys. Obviously, on a 2-game slate, you have to consider them, but it's going to be more difficult to play them simply because they are so deep. Minutes are probably going to be spread a little bit more until injuries start to strike and guys are ruled out or rested or whatever, and then things get tighter and there will be clearer opportunities. But just as a reminder, last year, opening night, the guy who broke the slate, Nemanja Bjelica, was not a guy, it was a bench player for Golden State that was not expected to be a huge contributor, but got the hot hand, got going, ended up having a big game. And the point being here is any one of these Golden State bench guys could potentially run, more than what anyone's going to project in the industry. And then the next 2 games, Bjelica barely played. So Kerr is going to play a little bit of hot hand with the bench guys and a little bit matchups oriented with the bench guys. The starters, I think the minutes are going to be relatively tight in terms of the range that he's keeping them in. But the bench guys, I think you could potentially get more disparity on. We'll talk through more of that stuff once again on the premium show, who we think could emerge in terms of getting more minutes in this particular matchup against the Lakers.
Yep.
On the Lakers side of things, on the injury report, there's actually a lot of action on the Lakers injury report.
What else?
There's no Thomas Bryant, no Troy Brown Jr., no Dennis Schroeder, and then listed as probable Russell Westbrook, which we were concerned about when he left the last preseason game, Anthony Davis and LeBron James, who just come with probable tags preloaded, it seems like. No matter who the coaching staff is, no matter what the situation is, AD and LeBron at least have to have a probable tag, if not questionable. All 3 expected to play. The big question mark around the Lakers And Mike Trudell, one of the best beats in the business, tweeted on Sunday that they expected to get a starting lineup, that they would be notified on Monday was the expectation. Monday passed. There's been no starting lineup that's been announced. We're still waiting. And the big question mark is, will Russell Westbrook be in that starting lineup? What will the starting lineup look like tonight? So what are your expectations for what we'll see from the Lakers tonight?
So AD, since he's healthy, AD said no restrictions. This is a thing where, it popped up. He got hurt early in the preseason, kept him out a while, missed both games of the back-to-back set. He's had back injuries before. So do you want him banging against Looney? Do you want him banging under the boards with a sore lower back? I don't know. So you got that factor. You got the Westbrook factor, which I was trying to figure out how often he's had hamstring strains. Rarely. I was going through my Twitter and stuff, and I ran into more DD Westbrook hamstring injuries than Russell Westbrook one. Man, DD busted me one year in fantasy. But anyways, so there's that. LeBron should be pretty healthy. He gets the probable tag regardless, as you mentioned. This is not a Vogel thing. So, I feel if they felt comfortable with playing AD center, I think he would start. You want a little bit more speed to guard the Warriors and all that good stuff. So you got that. Obviously Kendrick Nunn returning from injury after a long time off. How comfortable are they playing him? They need the spacing. He makes a lot of sense to me. You got the Patrick Beverley versus Steph stuff. We saw Beverley as a Clipper really limit Steph. So there's a whole lot of moving parts here, and you could run 20 different iterations of the starting lineup. It feels like, with AD on or off. Are you playing Austin Reeves? Are you playing Lonnie Walker? We've seen him get some starters jersey stuff. We saw the earlier quote where they want us to play, Patrick Beverley, Austin Reeves, and all this. It's just nuts. So I think Beverley should start. I think that's where I start with this thing. Obviously LeBron, AD. I think they need Nunn out there too. But I think there's only
two guys that are certain. I think there's three guys that are likely. The two guys that are certain, and Patrick Beverley. And then after that, I think they're probably going to start Russ and just stagger. I think that's the way they're going to start things. And I think they're going to start Lonnie Walker over Damian Jones. And the reason I think Damian Jones will go to the bench is because Thomas Bryant being out does limit the depth of their front court a little bit, whereas they could before, they can play Wenyen Gabriel if they want, but I don't know if they really want to. And so a lot of the whole rotation will likely be determined, honestly, by looking at the starting lineup. And we have a guess in right now that's kind of middled between a couple different options. But I think in order of likelihood to start, it's LeBron and AD, then Patrick Beverley. And then after that, I think Russ is most likely to start next. And because of that, I think it's then into Nunn, Walker, and Reeves. I think Reeves is the least likely. We did see in their dress rehearsal game, they started Russ, AD, LeBron, Beverley, and Lonnie Walker. And that was a game that somebody was unavailable. I'm forgetting who, that could have mixed in. So it hasn't been clean. I think it was Juan Toscano Anderson that might have been unavailable. It hasn't been clean, but I think that's where we're going. And I would expect, outside of LeBron and AD, the minutes I don't expect anyone else to touch 30. Westbrook could. I think if he starts, he could touch 30. But I think his minutes are going to be dialed back this year. And I think you're going to get a lot of guys in the low 20s, mid 20s between the Walker, Reeves, Nunn. The only way that it doesn't happen, that these guys, the bench guys, get up, is if they just basically play Anthony Davis as the primary five, Damian Jones is his backup, LeBron is the primary four, and it opens up all these wing minutes, right? Because they're a little bit thinner on the wings if they go that route. But it is a mess to try to project. We are sort of middling a bunch of different scenarios, and we will update as soon as we have more clarity around the situation.
Well, there's been a pretty steady drumbeat from the Athletic. Jovan Buha has really been talking about Russ coming off the bench. So I'd be probably surprised if he starts at this point. So given the injury,
the only reason I think they'll get there, but I don't know if they'll do it opening night. That's my only caveat on this whole thing. If he is off the bench, wouldn't surprise me. But my lean right now is that they'd go that route. But you can see our depth charts, which Mike has highlighted here. These are free on the site, much like this YouTube content. So please support the free content. We'd love you to support the paid content behind the paywall as well. But the depth charts are free. Mike is updating these constantly. You can see the two ways listed in there, and also kind of how we are thinking the depth charts might look. We all have, our own opinions here on what a starting situation might be for an individual night, but this is the way Mike's got it laid out. And I think this is the way it will eventually get to. I think it just might take a little bit of time because it's just like a veteran deference thing to like opening night, let the guys start. But we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing.
Great way. First night, we've got no clue who's starting in one of the games. So
it's
great start.
the only way I'd have it for NBA to be back. All right. It's a quick 2-game slate, so it's a quick injury report analysis show. We want to thank you all for tuning in. We will be back again tomorrow at 2:00 Eastern with another edition of Established Run's NBA injury report analysis show. In the meantime, if you wouldn't mind hitting, smashing, pressing gently, however you do it, that like button to continue to help circulate this free content on the YouTube machine. We'd love that. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to our YouTube channel as well, we'll continue to pump out this free content during the course of the season. And check out the subscribe page with packages. Hopefully you can find one that brings you into the ETR family during the NBA season. Get in the Discord. Enjoy a lot of great camaraderie with great folks and sharp players, DFS players, sports bettors in those Discords as well. Much love to all the people out there. We will see you again tomorrow with another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show.